leaders in the north over insecurity situation in the country as they liken situation to that of the Civil War era. And President Muhammadu Buhari has asked the military junta in Mali to immediately release ousted leader Ibrahim Keita, describing the takeover as an aberration. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Sean Kimaloye in Lagos. Let's begin by telling you that President Muhammadu Buhari is joining other world leaders in calling for the immediate release of the recently ousted president of Mali, Ibrahim Keita, who resigned after being detained by the country's military on Tuesday. The detention of the president and Prime Minister Boubou Cisse at a military camp near the country's capital, Bamako, has drawn condemnation from countries around the world. President Muhammadu Buhari added his voice to the calls for Keita's release while delivering his speech at a virtual extraordinary session of the Authority of ECOWAS Heads of State and Government, which he joined virtually from State House in Abuja. While commending the interventions of ECOWAS, he was quick to state that the negotiations had failed and supported sanctions currently placed on the country by ECOWAS. He stated that the military had no business in governance while appealing for the restoration of democracy in Mali. And so let's now check out some of the other stories that we have for you on our political roundup. And when we come back, we'll look at the worries from northern leaders in the country.
Political parties must therefore eschew violence.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has been speaking on the processes and procedures it's adopting for the Edo 2020 governorship election in the face of the COVID-19 pandemic. The commission met today with journalists in Benin City, where they explained that the critical role the media plays in disseminating information prompted the meeting.
The commission will avail you with these documents to equip you with good understanding of the processes, procedures and nuances of conducting elections under difficult circumstances.
And a splinter Yoruba group, Yoruba Appraisal Forum, has dissociated itself from calls in some quarters for the cessation of the Yoruba ethnic group from the nation. At a peaceful rally held in Abeokuta, the Ogun State capital, the group carpeted some Yoruba leaders for what it calls unpatriotic moves to destabilize the entity called Nigeria for their selfish interests. Receiving the group on behalf of the state governor, Dapo Abiodun, the chief of staff to the governor, Salisu Afolabi, said that the unity of the country is not negotiable, despite the daunting socio-economic and political challenges retarding its progress.
I'd like to assure you that your message will be delivered to the governor and to further enjoin you to ensure that you also express your views and conduct yourself in a manner that will not lead to breach of peace and security.
The Taraba state government has resolved to synergize with the relevant security operatives and traditional rulers in a bid to tackle insecurity in the state. Speaking at the end of an emergency closed-door meeting with chairmen of the 16 local government areas of Taraba, the Chairman Association of Local Government Chairmen disclosed that they have also resolved to introduce a platform for the promotion of peaceful coexistence.
Honorable Umaru Fintiri.
Governor Umaru Fintiri of Adamawa State has vowed that no amount of criticism will hinder him from going on with the urban renewal projects of the state. The governor made this comment when leaders of the Jemeta community paid him a solidarity visit over criticism in some quarters on his flyover projects in the state capital.
All right, before we get into it, the concerns of northern leaders in the northern region of the country in respect of the security situation in the country. Let's look at another concern, this time around coming from the main opposition political party in Nigeria, the People's Democratic Party, PDP, is not relenting in its criticism of the president's chief of staff and the former national chairman of the APC, Adams Oshiomhole, over allegations of plans to clamp down on opposition ahead of the election. The national chairman of the party, Uche Secondus, addressed the press earlier today in Abuja. Take a listen to him.
In a crisis period like this, COVID-19 had weighed down on Nigerians, and you are raising tension in the country. We want to let the president know that whatever that is happening and the tension in this country is caused by his handlers and the chief of staff and the former chairman of APC. We have tensions in the north, tension northeast, northwest, everywhere. And yet, they are in the villa under the watch of Mr. President, want to use the securities to clamp down. Are we in police state? People cannot freely speak.
All right, you heard the main opposition political party leader there, Uche Secondus. But look, there is worry over the security situation in the country, especially in the northern region of the country. The Arawa Consultative Forum, a socio-political group of northern elite in the north, has called for an end to killings in the country, which it likens to the security challenges in the country during the 1967-1970 Civil War. The ACF, in a statement by its chairman, Chief Audu Ogbe, after his meeting in Kaduna, said expressed concern that the North, which has about 78% of Nigeria's landmass, is faced with such magnitude of insecurity in the region, while attributing the high level of insecurity in the North to unemployment, poverty, and non-inclusion of the youths in governance. ACF, however, calls on the state and federal government, as well as the religious and traditional leaders, to take practical steps to address the security and economic challenges confronting the nation and the region. The ACF advised state governments of the northern region to pay adequate attention to agriculture, which offers more opportunities for diversification and the development of a more sustainable economy for the region and the country at large. Let's get talking about this one. Perhaps more on the solution tonight. Let's have joining me the spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum, Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. He joins us from Kaduna, and from our Abuja studio, he's the chieftain of the APC, Mr. Sule Ikosami. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Let me begin with Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed. Thank you for joining us tonight. You are one of the leaders in the northern region of the country, and we are hearing from the Arawa Consultative Forum. You are one of the leaders in the Northern Elders Forum. And when Mr. Audu Ogbe says that the situation that is happening in the country can be likened to the Civil War era, do you subscribe to that? Do you think it is as much?
Well, thank you for having me on this program. Let me say that the situation is actually worse than it was during the Civil War. The Civil War was a war, regretful, unfortunate, but it was largely confined to one part of the country. That doesn't make it any worse. We're dealing with a situation now where millions and millions of people, all the way from Sokoto to Maiduguri, from Minna to Taraba, Jalingo, every northerner is under threat, one type of threat or the other. You have banditry, you have kidnapping, you have wrestling, you have urban crimes. We have never, ever in the history of Nigeria, the North has never faced such types of insecurity. You have insecurity, you have poverty, you have poor governance. Well, our situation has never been worse than it is. You cannot possibly put this in words. But if we have to describe the situation we are facing now, it is to say that we are absolutely at the bottom of history. We've never been this bad. No one is safe. If you are not a villager, if you're a villager, you're not safe. If you live in a city, you're not safe. On the road, you're not safe. In your house, you are not safe. We don't have security cover at all. We're entirely on our own. We feel abandoned. We feel let down by an administration that we voted into power. We believe that painful as it is to say this, We believe that the security situation is no more in the hands of those who have responsibilities to protect us. So the statement of the ACF is measured, is controlled, but it's actually a downplaying process. They haven't stated the situation as bad as it should be.
What do you suppose is perhaps the cause of this? When I was speaking with the governor of Kaduna State, especially with the situation in southern Kaduna on Sunday, he said it's an age-long crisis, something that has been happening for several decades. Is it something that is some like of a resurgence, or there is a new phenomenon in town about what you are seeing in the north?
Let's put this in context first. The situation in Kaduna State is both new and old, and it is not proper to use Kaduna State as a yardstick for measuring how insecure the north is. Kaduna State has had massive problems going back the last 50, 60, 70 years. Some of these problems attempts have been made to solve them. The trigger to the current problem is the same thing that has been affecting Zamfara and Sokoto and Katsina and Niger State. It is a situation in which massive parts of the country are unpoliced, ungoverned, or poorly governed, poorly policed, poorly defended, poor insecurity. The situation in southern Kaduna State was triggered by this situation. Unfortunately for Kaduna State, the trigger met an underlying problem, historical problem, that is easy to start. You have to understand there have been parts of northern Nigeria that had known no conflicts at all for the last 70, 80 years. People have lived in peace. Of course, they're poor, but they have lived in peace. We've enjoyed security. For the first time ever in our history, we are poor, we are insecure, and we are unsure about what the leaders we voted into power are doing. So it's useful to draw attention to the situation in southern Kaduna State, but it is not entirely representative of the situation in which the entire North finds itself today. What is happening in the North is a failure of leadership, it's a failure of the administration of President Buhari to do what needs to be done to address massive insecurity in the North, in spite of the fact that this is a president that was voted largely by Northern votes. He is from the North. He should know our pains. He should know what it means for villagers to become IDPs in Katsina, in Zamfara, in Kaduna, in Niger State. For the first time ever, we were hearing about IDPs in Borno and in Yobe, and we were sad. But now, there's hardly any state in the North that doesn't have IDP camps. This is unacceptable. And we've made every point.
Dr. Baba Ahmed, just a moment. All right, just a moment. Let me turn to Abuja studio with Mr. Ikosami. You've heard what Dr. Baba Ahmed has said there. That is largely a problem of leadership in the country that allowed this to fester. Your thoughts?
No, that is, with all due respect to Dr. Ahmed, it is very unfair for him to say the entire problem is attributed to the leadership of the country. That's very wrong. First and foremost, look at this whole of Northwest. It's surrounded by about 3 different African countries that share the same language with these bordering states, which means a farmer in Niger Republic today can walk into Sokoto and speak Hausa and walk anywhere. A farmer from Chad or all of those countries, they can come into the country through the north, speak Hausa, move around and do. So most of this banditry, we know the sources, we know where they're coming from. It started from, this marabout has been going on for a very long time. It's so bad in those countries right now. Most of them see opportunities, the agro opportunity, animal opportunities around these areas. That's why they come in, take cattle, try to kill. So the criminality and the banditry is, we know the sources. We know most of these things are actually emanating from some of these surrounding countries. Meanwhile, with all the effort the government is doing, spending so much money in multinational forces, spending so much money with simultaneous activities taking place between the military, army, and the air force. And besides, just yesterday, if you're following the news, the IG and several other police officers were in the Kebbi State. What they went there to do, to be able to create a synergy concerning the policy of community policing that should have been properly harnessed by most of our traditional areas in those communities, because most of those areas are well manned by traditional health leaders, on all those areas. So with the synergy,
Mr. Ikosami,
with the security,
just a moment.
community policing policy that is being
sorry, apologies to interrupt your line of thought. But I want us to go on a break. When we come back, I'll allow you to talk more on some of these problems, and perhaps we will be looking at the solution to the crisis that engulfed the northern region of the country. Don't go anywhere. We're just about solution to these problems, everyone. We'll be right back. Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us. It's the concern of the northern leaders. The guests are talking tonight, and they're describing what is happening in the country, especially in the northern region, in terms of insecurity to what happened during the Civil War. Is that really are things really that bad? Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed is a spokesperson of the Northern Elders Forum. He's been speaking with us from Kaduna. And Mr. Ikosami is a chieftain of the APC, speaking to us from Abuja. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time tonight. Let me get back to Mr. Ikosami. You do not agree with Dr. Hakim Baba Ahmed on the issue of the leadership issue. But do you think that the leadership would have done something different to curb what has become a big crisis in that region?
Yes, Shaun, what you need to look at is that when you are raising a criticism over certain insurgency or insecurity, you have to look at what the military is doing, what the armed forces of Nigeria is doing. And one thing we have to understand, we have human beings like me and you in the military that are fighting these people in most of these suburbs. So it's very unfair. We know we have a president who was in the military. It's not possible for someone that has attained that level of military life, for you to even look at, he will consider having to fail when it comes to issue of security. It's a source of worry for all of us. We are doing everything we can within our powers to keep on encouraging our people to give morals to the military and ensure that we keep on manning our borders. Already what they can be doing right now could be simultaneous joint operations, which air and land will show within time this thing could actually be eradicated. And this, if you look at the history of all these people, these bandits coming in most of our borders, you discover that, just like I said earlier, we speak the same language, they speak Hausa. When they come into most of these neighboring states, you won't even understand whether they are Nigerians or not. Look at how much resources the armed forces, the number of military men and airmen and women that have been dying on those areas because of such fight. Is a fight that is ongoing. The president is not asleep. The military are not asleep. We cannot be quiet. We'll continue to tell our government that the effort you are making is good. You keep on fighting so that we can handle it. Meanwhile, a very important thing I want to highlight. The community engagement of our traditional institutions, which is currently being done by the security agents, is a wonderful idea. Because there is no community around our border in Sokoto, Kebbi, and Farakasina that you don't have a leader in that community. There is nobody that will cross within that area that the community heads of those areas do not know. So now there is a serious engagement, and with the community policing policy seriously enhanced by this government, I can assure you that most of these things will be taken care of. And you have to understand, look at the economy of Chad and Niger. Most of these people stoop in here and try to take a lot of...
No, just a moment. When the Arawa Consultative Forum described what is happening, that they could describe it to what happened during the Civil War. Have things gone that bad in that region? Do you agree with that?
No, it is very unfair. It is unfair for someone to attribute the current security challenges we're having in the north or banditry to civil war. If you look at all these things, the insecurity started in the northeast. There was insecurity even in the Niger Delta during the breakage of fire pipes, oil lines, and all that. All these are economic reasons have emanated as a result. Most of these insecurities happen in most of these areas. And you know that seasonally, especially within the rainy season that we are right now, most of these bandits cross within these borders and get into our vulnerable communities to attack our people. What we need to do as men of honorable PDP and APC is to support this government, encourage men and women that are giving their lives on the field, fighting for all these things, than for us to sit down. Most of our analysts, they don't actually know what is happening. Me, I am from Kebbi. I am losing people in some of these areas. Most of these analysts that will give most of this interpretation, they don't even know what is happening in most of our farmlands around there. They just open their mouth and just talk and turn everything political. Election has been won a long time ago. President Muhammadu Buhari is the president. He will be president in 2023 by God's grace. So whoever wants to play politics should wait for the time of politicking he can do. So now we need to come together as Nigerians, support the government, support the military, support our community so that we can have a peaceful areas.
All right. Dr. Baba Ahmed, please come back into the conversation and let's look at what could be done. What do you think could have been done differently from what is being done? You have highlighted the issue of leadership as a major problem, but it does look like Mr. Ikosami disagrees with you. He said it is not.
Well, it's very unfortunate. If this is the kind of spokespersons of the presidency, I'm not surprised that we are running away from bullets and bandits and marauders. It's really unfortunate, and I have to say that if this is the best that channels can do to get people like this gentleman, who I'm sure is sincere, but he doesn't know anything about what is going on in the north, is unfortunate. Look, the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is the commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. On more than one occasion, he had said publicly that he is disappointed with the performance of the military. You measure the performance of the military by the degree to which they are winning a war or losing a war. The truth about it is we support our military. We wish they were doing better. We want to support them. And the truth about it is that they are failing. They are not failing because they are not good enough, but they're failing because there is no political will behind supporting them to do that. The commander-in-chief of the armed forces, President Buhari is failing the country. Many, many times he has accepted the fact that the military is not winning the war. The problem is far beyond the military. There is lack of political will. There is something fundamentally wrong in the manner we organize security in this country. There is no policing. Policing as an institution has collapsed. We know this in the north because there are situations where police just isn't good enough. The military is overstretched. There are gaps.
What would you suggest?
And the president is doing absolutely nothing about it. For the past more than 1 year, we have reserved, we've held back from saying that the leadership of the military has failed because, of course, when somebody is fighting, is doing his best, you don't want to discourage them. But the truth is the president himself has admitted that. What is he doing about doing something about the leadership of this country?
Dr. Baba Ahmed, if I may ask you quickly, what do you think is perhaps one major solution to this problem? You are an elder, you are a leader in that region of the country. So if, for example, the president is listening to you right now and is looking for a solution, what would that be?
I would say to him, first of all, that he needs to do personally a lot more than just simply listen and then say to these people, I'm not happy about what you're doing, your best is not good enough, and then he lets them go. This slap of the wrist approach is not good enough. He's the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. We voted him in. He swore to Allah that he's going to protect Nigerians. He needs to do a lot more. He's not committed enough to the security of Nigeria. That's the first thing. Now, the second thing is that he needs to undertake a massive overhaul of the entire security infrastructure in this country. There needs to be massive changes in the numbers and in the professional standards of the police, in the military. He needs to address the issue of whether states and federal government should have policing. We need to revisit the issue of restructuring. It is no more an agenda of a section of the country. Policing needs to be readdressed in the context where all Nigerians will feel a little bit more secure. There are a lot of issues that have to be done. He doesn't have the time to do that. The worst legacy President Buhari can leave is a north that is infinitely
we're out of time. Yeah, we're out of time. Let me allow Mr. Ikosami to come back into the fray. As we close the program now, you heard what Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed said now about what needs to be done and urgently too. Going forward, a solution, and the minds of Nigerians, they're thinking things have gone really bad. When you hear sometimes when soldiers are complaining about what is happening in their rank and file, you're wondering what exactly is happening. So going forward, what do you think we should be expecting from this government?
The first and foremost, you have to understand the president has a discretion to appoint or leave any other person he wants to leave at the hierarchy of the military. What I expect from the opposition particularly is for them to give just one solution for the issue of insecurity within the Northwest. None at all. You can't criticize someone with such policy that you and I know the investment federal government is doing on the security. We are not saying everything is all okay. We are all worried, in fact, more worried than the opposition because they are looking for points. What we are praying for is Nigerians to come together, support Mr. President in taking the right decision, criticize government where it's failing, come out and give specific criticism on insecurity issues on particular areas. I have given an example of like area of Katsina and Sokoto. I mentioned about how people trample in Domarabat from Niger and coming. And we know these things happen during the season. And one of the things is a multinational joint simultaneous operation which could be done by the Air Force and the military. It's going to happen. Do we need such submissions, such cooperations from everybody in the country so that we can try to
Mr.
find this
Ikosami,
demon
I
that
think
is
that's a
actually
very good
ravaging our
place to leave it
community.
tonight.
And we hope,
that we'll be able to get the best, especially on some of the description of this worsening security situation in the northern region of the country. Mr. Sule Ikosami, thank you so much for coming on tonight. And Dr. Akim Baba Ahmed, it's good to see you again. Thank you so much for taking time out to speak to us. And that's our show for tonight, everyone. Thanks for watching. I'm Sean Kimberley. Bye-bye.